Hey everybody. So today I wanted to give you just a little bit of an update about what's going on in my life and talk about some books as well, because that's what we do on this channel and on my other channel. It is May 27th when I'm recording this. Hopefully it'll be May 27th when I also post this. When I look back at my reading in May, it was a little bit slow because things have been really hectic. I think that this is probably going to be one of my worst reading years, probably about 5 years. Couple of reasons for this. One is falling into some bad habits about like watching YouTube and stuff like this. That's fixable, so I can improve that. Second, though, is I've mentioned before on this channel and the other channel, I believe my wife and I are expecting a baby. In fact, today is the due date. We are waiting for this kid to come out. My wife's not in labor yet, so that's why I can record this. You know, I'm enjoying a quiet Saturday while she rests, drinking some cold brew. But our son could show up at any moment now, and that means probably I'm not going to read as much in June as I would like, but sometimes there are more important things. And three, it's just like I've been very busy because I'm trying to commit more to the YouTube channel and just trying to do well there. When you add all of those things together, reading becomes a little bit harder to do. However, because reading is like one of the things that I truly love, it's going to be something that I try to fix. I'm really kind of a big believer in the idea that you should note when you're failing at something, note when you're maybe not living up to the standards that you've set for yourself, and just fix it. I really try not to despair or anything like this. If I'm not reading enough, I can read more, and I can make time to read more. So we're going to talk about some books that I got recently. I'm not going to show all 9 of these, but I got the hardback set of John le Carré's Smiley novels. I don't read a lot of spy fiction or any kind of espionage or something like this, but I decided that I wanted to. It feels like a genre that I should read a little bit more of. Now, I'm going to note, I actually think John le Carré is not my favorite person. Let's put it that way. From a previous video on censorship and publishing, you probably know my feelings about freedom of speech and its sort of role in a large, free, civil, pluralistic society. And John le Carré really did not show himself well when this was threatened directly in the case of Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie, who was famously almost murdered recently because of a book that he wrote, because people were offended by a book that he wrote. And early on in that whole controversy, le Carré said something along the lines of, well, you can't offend a great religion. Early on in that, when that happened originally with the Satanic Verses, le Carré basically came out and criticized Rushdie instead of defending him when, again, Rushdie was being threatened. His life was actually being threatened. He had to go into hiding. That said, I am also a believer that you can pretty much separate the art and artist, to use a kind of vulgar phrase. So I don't let that kind of bleed into my assessment of the works. And from what I've heard, le Carré is kind of the master of spy fiction, or one of the masters. And the Smiley novels are kind of his most famous novels. So I figure I'm going to read them. I'm also just really interested in the Cold War and the 20th century. I'm very interested in the Soviet Union's history. I've talked about this many times, but I really have a great fondness for a lot of Russian literature, but especially a lot of Soviet dissident literature. I just think it's really evocative and imaginative, and shows humanity in this wonderful light. This is reading about the Cold War in literature from a very different perspective, but still, I'm looking forward to reading it. 2 other books that I bought on that theme recently were Robert Service's The End of the Cold War and Westad's The Cold War, A New History. Both of these were recommendations from Steve Donahue. So if you're into book stuff, you might know his channel. And I also recently obtained a copy of Orwell's new biography, Orwell, The New Life, and that is by DJ Taylor. Pegasus Books actually sent me a digital copy because I might use it in a video, and I'm very thankful for that. Speaking of videos, I am trying to rework an earlier video that was never released on Yevgeny Zamyatin's We and on Orwell. I keep rewriting the script. I once wrote a Substack about it. I've done a bunch of stuff about this, but I'm trying to make it as good as possible. This might be like my first 45-minute video, if everything turns out the way that I think it might. I'm just really love Zamyatin's novel. I love Zamyatin's letters, and I've been reading those in a volume called A Soviet Heretic. You can find that on the Internet Archive. And I'm thinking about literary influence, the dystopian movement, and also how it grows out of the earlier utopian literary movement, but also like what we mean by utopia. So many interesting questions there, and I'm just trying to weave them all together into a coherent and compelling story. First, though, I think that probably in June I'm going to release one video, maybe two. I have a live stream planned with another booktuber, and we're going to talk about mostly fantasy stuff. But my big goal and like what I'm going to be focusing on is the fact that my son is going to be born. And ideally he will be here today. I would like to meet him, but he'll be here soon, and I need to focus on that, right? In my day job, I have really, really generous paternity leave. So I'm going to get several months off where I don't have to work and I can just spend time with my kid. And while I will still do a little bit of YouTube stuff because I enjoy it and I want to keep the momentum going, I don't want to waste those early months. I want to really make the most of them. So I guess also when I say like what I've been reading, I should also mention I was reading Emily Oster's books on parenthood. I really liked her book Expecting Better about pregnancy. Very, very helpful as my wife and I were navigating that. And then I was reading Crib Sheet, which is a really lovely little book about the kind of early childhood parenting. I've only read the first third of that because the bottom, like the back 2/3 are for slightly older kids, and I'm going to read those when they become relevant. And I guess I'm also going to be reading a lot of children's books because I plan on reading my son just all the time. You got to just immerse him in words. That's what my parents did for me, and so I want to spread that love. Still reading the first book of Malazan. I just ended up kind of putting it down for a little while, but it really picks up about halfway through, and I expect to finish it this weekend. And then I'll probably move on to the second one pretty quickly, though I might mix it up with a Le Carré novel, and then more Malazan, and then, Le Carré, and just go back and forth. I've just been thinking about all the other people that I want to read right now. I need to finish The Unbearable Lightness of Being. I want to read Paradise Lost. I plan on reading Brothers Karamazov next month. I need to finish Robinson Crusoe. So lots of things that I need to finish reading or that I want to start reading soon, but it's hard to plan with just so much life stuff happening. Now that we're done talking about some books and stuff, let me talk about just like a topic that's kind of on my mind. If you're interested in this, keep watching. If not, thanks for watching the earlier parts. I want to talk about creativity and how it seems to come in bursts for me and how that makes being a YouTuber weird. So I put out a lot of videos this month. According to my YouTube analytics, I put out 11 videos this month. That is not true. It's counting a lot of drafts that I uploaded to let certain people see it to review. But I think that if you look through my YouTube studio, you can see that I published 5 videos this month, and I might have one more out before the end of the month, so 6 videos in a month. At the beginning of the year, I said that I was only going to be releasing 3 videos a month. However, I have found that this month I've just been able to produce a lot, and I felt really good about it. Some of those videos have done very well. None of them have taken off like doing huge numbers, but they're doing very well. I kind of have a marker for success, like a number I like to hit in a month with a video that I counted as doing well. And 2 of the videos look like they are on track to definitely do that. No, 3 of the videos look like they're on track to definitely hit that mark. A 4th one, I think if I change the title and thumbnail, stands a chance. A 5th one was a risk. So, the 5th one that I'm talking about that isn't doing well is one on logical fallacies. I thought that would take off, but I don't think actually my current audience really wants to see that kind of content. And so not a lot of people click on it, so it dies. YouTube doesn't push it. I felt really good this entire month as I was able to produce a lot. And I think that's because success generally rewards success. And when I start seeing some success, I get motivation and energy to keep doing well. So because at the end of April was a really bad month for me. In fact, March was also bad. March and April were not great months for me on YouTube. I never had a video hit my kind of threshold in its 30-day views that I would count as really successful. Some videos that I thought would have done really, really well really floundered. And while I don't only assess things based on views, views are how you make revenue, which means you can kind of assess how much it's worth your time in that way to make certain videos. What helped me there was that all of the videos, or at least a good chunk of them, I felt good about. Like I felt like I had made something good. And when you're making something good, that makes it easier to be motivated, even if maybe the algorithm doesn't agree. But still, it was really getting hard to motivate myself to do more. And so I was putting more and more gaps between videos. And that actually leads to kind of a failure spiral. But then at the end of April, I put out my science fiction list, and it did well. Right now, it has 120,000 views, and that felt really, really good. It's kind of important, actually, that I have to hit a certain threshold of views for a lot of videos because I pay an editor. I like my editor a lot. He charges a very fair price, but if the video flops, I lose money, right? But anyway, all of these videos started to do better, and because the science fiction list was doing better, well, that meant in about a week, I was able to put out my philosophy for beginners list, and that's doing pretty well. That's nice too, because I have a sponsor, and you want to do well when you have a sponsor. And then, 2 days after releasing that, I put out a video on Commonplace books, which did not do super well in the first week, but has recently kind of picked up, and I think is on track to hit my minimum view count to feel good about it. And then I did my fallacy video, which kind of floundered, but that's fine. It was a risk. You get to experiment. And now I have this philosophical science fiction video, and I think that's going to do well. I just need to maybe tweak it a little bit. But that was on a topic that I really like, so that was easy to make. And then I have this other video coming out that I'm very excited about, and then I'm working on this bigger Zamyatin project, and then I've got a list of other videos I could make in the next couple of months. What I really notice is just as I do better, as I succeed, I want to keep creating. The interesting thing, I guess, as someone who wants to be creative, this is true for anyone, is how do you keep going when you aren't getting that external validation? Because while it's a very positive thing to respond positively to external validation and to double down and to do more and to really commit to being creative, when you're not getting that, how do you push through? And that's something I haven't quite figured out yet. And I think that maybe in order to do that, you have to trust your own taste, and you have to really believe in the kind of spirit and mission of what you're doing. If you don't have that confidence, then when you're not getting external validation, it's just never going to be enough. So we need to be motivated by thinking like, what I am saying is worth saying. And maybe we sometimes actually have to trick ourselves because maybe it's something we don't fully believe. But we have to kind of believe that. We have to start believing it in order to push through. For that reason, I think there's going to be a shift on my main channel in a little bit. I do well when I make book lists. Book lists do well, and they're fun. But I put out 4 book lists this month. I put out 4 book lists this month, and I realized I'm not actually telling you a story. I'm not crafting a narrative or something like this. I'm not developing an idea. And I tried to develop an idea a bit more when I was reading, when I was working in the last 2 months. I did a video on nihilism. That was okay. Did a video on learning things from 10 years of journaling. That was fine. It wasn't great, but it was fine. My point is, I want to start telling you stories more on the channel. Maybe that slows me down again, right? Because it's a shift. Maybe it means I'm paying my editor more because it's longer videos. Whatever it is, all I know is I need to make sure that I feel really good about what I'm doing. Because by feeling good about what I'm doing, I'm going to be able to keep doing it for years and years. Because I see YouTube really as part of my future. It really is part of my future. And I plan on, this is my business. Like, this is it. I'm writing as well. I'm writing a book. I want the book to do well, but YouTube right now is the thing that's working for me. but I need to make sure that I can feel fulfilled intellectually, creatively, spiritually, all of that with what I'm doing. Okay, just some thoughts about creativity and stuff. I hope you're all doing well. If you watch this and I've gone silent for a little while, ideally it is because my son is born. But regardless, sometime I will talk to you soon.